You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is January 15th, 2025, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we are bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. Today, we have a little bit of a special show. We don't have a guest today. We decided we'd talk about the wildfires that are happening in Southern California. So there's a lot of stories there related to liberty, bad government, and just a whole cavalcade of things that could be done better. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our lower right-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. And tonight we have joining us in our left-hand corner from behind the scenes, our invisible hand, James Just. He is the Sacramento County Libertarian Party chair, and he is joining us today to give his input too as well on the fire.
Unless someone wants my job, they can have it.
Yeah. Well, let me retire from my other job and maybe I'll take you up on it. But anyways, we always start off with a Liberty quote, and with respect to fires, I thought this was a perfect quote. It is one of our founding fathers, Ben Franklin. He was also a prominent scientist and journalist of his day as well. And he said, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And, normally this wouldn't fit into, a lot of libertarian subjects, but oh my gosh, when we're talking about a disaster like fires and how these things are handled by government, I think we got no prevention,
Yeah.
what it sounds like, and a whole lot of cure we're going to need. So, what do you guys think about this quote? I think it's spot on for what we're dealing with here.
I think nothing could typify the incompetence of our so-called leaders than that quote. There was no to little prevention. These fires that are happening in Southern California right now, was everybody knew it was a possibility, because once those winds start and the ground is very dry, it's very easy to start these fires. And of course, our leaders were absent. Water was not flowing properly. All those sort of things were going on because there was no plan of action for the emergency. There was no prevention. And so an ounce of prevention, which is what we could have had down there, would have surely given us a lot more cure preemptively. But of course, our leaders were AWOL.
Well, the type of prevention that these things needed isn't sexy. It's not a high-speed rail. You can't go and do ribbon cutting. Brush clearing. There's no ribbon cutting for a brush clearing project, right? You don't get on the front paper. You don't. There's none of that stuff. And so that type of prevention, the low-cost, basic prevention mitigation. I'm going to change it to mitigation, because you're in California. You can't prevent wildfires, but you can mitigate the disastrous effects. And we did none of that. And we're paying the price. And we will be paying the price for the next 30 years. And so if it's just,
I very much
rather than pay a price for 2 years, we're going to have to pay a price for 30.
I very much feel like, you're right. The things we should have been doing, we weren't doing. And to me, it brings up the quote that we hear, a lot of times, Rome burned while Nero fiddled. And I feel like it's, LA burned while Newsom fiddled with his genitals. I don't know. I mean, their priorities are completely weird and off. It have nothing to do with like you said, the unsexy things of planning for what you're supposed to do in governance, right? It's not the sexy stuff. It's not fast trains and everything else. It's supposed to be just, hey, get this basic infrastructure right. That's all we're asking from you. Just get that right, and go away. Right. And
what is so amazing about all of this, the fires started. They started to question the legislator. What are they doing? Are you getting people, whatever, that kind of stuff and things like that. But you know what the legislator had a special session to do while the fires were ongoing? They have a special session to Trump-proof the state. And you know what Trump proofing mean? They're going to protect illegal aliens. While Los Angeles is burning, they're looking to spend money to protect illegal aliens. Okay? This is what will happen. Rome was burning, and whoever it is was just fiddling. Rome was burning, and our leaders in California are just fiddling with their behinds.
And Leon, it's not just the when they say Trump proof, it's not just the immigration issue. It's like everything that can be undone by Trump at the federal level. That's what they're looking to secure. So you talk about environmental waivers, all those things. They're trying to figure out how they can, defend supposedly against the Trump administration. But oh my gosh, I mean, they're literally spending all this money saying they want to keep it Trump proof, and then they're saying, "Hey, Trump, can you come over here and help us out?"
Yes.
Just it's absolutely nuts.
While I accept your point, Jason, that it was not the only the illegal alien issue, it was the most prominent. And but you're right, there were other things involved in this whole Trump proofing.
Yeah. I'm guessing probably Title IX and some of those other things probably spill into there too. But yeah. So it looks like we have our Screaming Eagle of Freedom with us here today too. So welcome, Tim. So
thank you.
I guess
sorry I'm late.
That's okay. So we're gonna get to, I guess, some of the images of the fire, just so people can kind of see what we're talking about here. So we have an article from NPR, and it's the most dramatic images of the wildfire is what they're calling it. And so here you see all these cars. Looks like some of them might have been EVs that are just left on the road because fire crews had to get through and the roads were backed up, and they just plowed through these things. People had to run and leave their cars. But yeah, just a lot of crazy scenes from this fire here. So so the devastation is pretty extreme. And the crazy thing is, it's not done yet. I mean, even though we're talking about it now, it's not like this is just the aftermath. It's still going. So we don't exactly know for sure when they're going to have this thing wrapped up. But we're going to talk about a whole bunch of issues around this fire. We're going to talk about some issues around insurance. We're going to talk about mismanagement, from our government, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the misinformation thing that Democrats are trying to raise the specter of, and price gouging, which is another thing. So those are some of the topics we're going to kick around today on the show related to this horrifying fire that, boy, I tell you, it's just amazing that, how much damage this thing has done. So you guys have any thoughts on the images before we move along?
I mean, it's just heartbreaking. That's the only thing you could say. People lost their homes, lost everything. Some of these people don't have insurance, so God knows what is going to happen in terms of their rebuilding of their homes. I mean, it's just heartbreaking. And I mean, the fires probably would have started. Okay, I think there's no way to prevent a fire from starting unless it was arson. Of course, we don't know that. But the extent of the devastation that we have seen, it did not have to happen. This did not have to happen. Maybe the fire would have started. Maybe we would have had some damage. Some of that would have happened. There's no doubt about that. But the extent of this did not have to happen. Most of this was totally preventable.
Leon, I saw an interview of a guy said he was in the fire department for 35 years, and they asked him if you would have had enough water and that kind of thing, would it have helped? And he didn't think it would have. He's never seen the winds that were, hurricane force winds. I mean, 70 miles an hour and so on, winds at the time. So I think it was a combination, of the lack of access to water, the brush that was left uncleared, and with previous controlled burns and so on, that I think would have helped a lot. And then just the fact that Santa Ana winds are a yearly occurrence, and they they were blowing pretty good. But then once that fire gets going, it's got its own weather pattern, and so it increases winds too. So it creates its own wind weather pattern, and it could have it could have been a combination that we'll never know for sure because you can't do the experiment where A, you have plenty of water, B, you have underbrush cleared out in previous controlled burns throughout the last 10 years, and especially last year, and then you have the same, because the wind, once it gets going, what's it going to do, and then the fire starts. So we can't have that. Unfortunately, we can't have that laboratory where we get to compare.
I would disagree just a little bit in the sense
I would disagree a lot, but go ahead.
But I was just going to say in the sense that you can see what's happened in an area the fire has already gone through and the fuel is gone, that the fire doesn't catch there, right? I mean, so that this is one of those issues of fuel management, right? Where if you do a better job with fuel management, it can only help, right? And clearly they haven't been doing a very good job with fuel management. And mismanagement is definitely one of those things we'll talk more about during the show, but later on in the show. But it is something where you can see that the areas, they're not that worried about fire coming back to the areas that have already been burned through. So,
no, I don't think so. No, right. Yeah. That's for one thing, there's nothing there left to
burn.
to save, nothing to save, everything's gone, unless people can find their mother's, their grandmother's wedding ring or something like that. Sure. But anyway.
Well, I can't believe anybody who has worked for the fire department for 35 years will speak this kind of damn nonsense. Okay? Because these people go out and fight fires. And the reason why fires spread is because underbrush is not cleared, the forest is not managed properly. We are starting from two different points, me and this guy, whoever he is. Okay? Two different points. He's talking about the fact, the fire already started, the brush is not cleared, and the forest is uncleared, so the thing is going to spread like wildfire. I am starting from the point where our democratic leaders, the wonderful leaders we have in this state that now seems like a place of curse, our leaders have not been doing anything to manage the potentials of fire. Okay, whether it's managing the water, whether it's clearing the brush, whether it's clearing the forest, they are not doing anything. They haven't been doing that for the last 10, 15, 20 years. So if now the fire comes up and that kind of stuff, of course, we're going to need a lot of water to take care of the damn nonsense that they started.
Well, it's funny too. Bill Maher has said on his show, not this year, but like in a previous year, seems like almost every year they have these big fires down there, right? And he was saying, "Hey, I'm getting tired of this. If you guys don't figure this out, I'm going to leave LA." Right? So because you just see these hellscapes, where the hills are orange, with flames, and it's just, it's crazy.
Yeah, to be fair, as I recall, the question was asked regarding the water. If you had had access to, the reservoirs full of water and so on and so forth, would it have made a difference? And he didn't think it would because of just the massive amount of wind blowing, blowing the existing fires. It's, they're real hard to control. So, there you have it. But
I mean, sure, of course, the winds made a big difference, I am sure. But the fact of the matter is the Santa Ana winds are not uncommon in Southern California. They are not. Maybe this one year it was a little bit stronger than normal or whatever, that kind of stuff. But they are not uncommon. So we should be preparing for these things.
Well, let's get to, I guess, a point of the show that I wanted to get to, because I think these are the best predictors of what we can and should be doing. And that's insurance companies, right? And they're kind of at the heart of this story in so many ways. And so I really wanted to focus on them first in this whole thing because, I think they're being a little overlooked in the service that they actually provide. Most people only think about insurance companies being important on repairing the damage. But actually, the most important thing insurance companies do from an economic perspective is they price risk. They tell us how risky our behavior is on things. And it's really pointing to know that insurance companies were trying to get out of California in a lot of places before this happened. They had kind of already seen that, hey, this is sort of a high risk zone. In fact, here is a particular story from KTLA News, like literally 4 weeks ago, I think, roughly. It looks like December 19th, right? So, I mean, they hit this, out of the ballpark here. And they have a video here where they explain why insurance companies are getting out of California. And so, James, maybe you can play KOL 1. It's a fairly short video, but it goes through and bullets what all of the issues were here of why insurance companies were leaving. And then, of course, California has price controls on insurance as well. Of course, these are big name insurance companies that we all recognize that are leaving. So, I mean, essentially what they're saying is, hey, look, they've identified there's a lot of risk here. They cannot adjust prices to cover that risk because California has an insurance commission that literally tells them what they can and can't charge. So now you can get secondary insurance, but you can't, to maybe cover whatever it is that you don't think your insurance company is covering. But as far as this goes, it's what's regulated, the basic stuff that you need to get your mortgage and everything else. That is, essentially price controls is what we've got. And the insurance companies are saying, hey, this is getting pretty darn risky and we don't want any part of it. I mean, to me, that's a loud scream that, hey, there's risk. What should we be doing about the risk? Not complaining about price, but saying, hey, what can we do to mitigate the price, therefore mitigate the risk, right? And, that wasn't the story. The story was, hey, just ignore these guys and keep on playing. I mean, what do you guys think about this? I think this is just.
Well, they're not just pricing risk. They're pricing cost of repayment or rebuilding, and in California, that's astronomical. If you bought your house 40 years ago, you're an old person. You bought your house 40 years ago in Paladez Hills. You paid $1 million for it. It's now worth $15 million. The price to rebuild that in California is going to be 20. And so that's what the insurance company is saying. I can rebuild an insurance company can rebuild $1 million house, but they can't afford to rebuild a $20 million house simply because we're in California.
Yeah.
So it's not just the risk itself. They're fine with the risk. They just can't, because of the cost, they can't of building and replacing the materials in California. You can't.
Yeah, but the cost, that cost that you're talking about, James, comes from the mismanagement, all this environmental regulation, damn nonsense that we have here in California is what is driving up the cost. As a matter of fact,
fees, usage restrictions, all the various things that make housing prices raise up. Yeah, all the various costs.
And look at what's happening right now. Look at what's happening right now. Gavin Newsom is even acknowledging about this cost issue. He don't say what you just said. He didn't say what I just said. But you know what he's going to do? He's going to waive all the environmental regulation so they could rebuild quicker. So what do you think he's doing? He's acknowledging the direct damn nonsense they've been doing for the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah. Hey, and it's like you were saying, James. There's more to it than just is a fire going to start, but it's the cascade of mismanagement of everything.
Yes.
That all of these things cost so much that like you said, that maybe he's waiving environmental and permit things because those are raising the cost. Oh well, guess what? The insurance company has to deal with that too. That's part of the risk that they're undertaking by underwriting somebody's fire insurance. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the third leg of the stool is the price controls, which always lead to shortages of whatever you put price controls on. So if insurance has price controls, which they do in California, that means that there's going to be a shortage of insurance, and that's why it's leaving the state. And so how are you going to get a mortgage if you can't insure the property? You know, the
Very good
nobody's going
point.
to give you a mortgage. So you've got all these factors, and it's going to get to the point. I think my son was right. He said in the future only the ultra wealthy will be able to live in California, at least own a house, because they're the only ones that can afford to self-insure and have enough funds left over. They don't have to get a mortgage; they just pay cash for the house, and so they'll own their houses in Pacific Palisades, and then if they burn up, they'll just go into the piggy bank and get another 10 million or whatever James just gave as an example to build the house again, and no one that's less than a multi-millionaire will live in California. That's his prediction.
Yeah.
We'll see if
Well,
it happens. Sure, going that way.
Yeah, that's a very good point about these price controls, because we all know. I mean, all of us have some little bit understanding of economics. Price controls always leads to shortages. There's no way to get around that. Okay.
Yeah.
And these politicians always think they are smarter than the market. They could always outsmart the market. They could just mandate X, Y, Z shall happen, and they think that once they mandate it, everything is fine and wonderful, and everybody's going to get to this economic utopia. It is such damn nonsense. And later on in this show, we're going to talk about this price gouging issue, which is another bunch of crap.
Yeah. Well,
they're so arrogant, Leon. California politicians are so arrogant that they think that, oh, well, no matter what regulations we dump on them, so no matter what costs they'll dump on them, people will still want to do business here. But yet we're seeing that they're not. They're willing to walk away.
Yes.
You're not worth it. You're not worth the trouble. We're not worth the trouble. It's us here in California. We are not worth the trouble.
Well, yeah, because you just can't afford it. It's a matter of affordability.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But by the way,
we're not worthy as customers. Get out.
Well, for anybody who's watching and they don't necessarily understand why we're saying it, we're so certain that price controls lead to shortages. Essentially, it means that you have no incentive if somebody holds the price under what people are willing to produce to. People just don't have the incentive to bring more to market. So a rising price actually is telling more people to come to that market, right? Who are more producers, right? So it's like a scream within the economy, bring more of this stuff here, right? But because there's a price control, you can't, right? You can't bring the price up to reflect whatever it should be. But this is showing mismanagement. And James, maybe you could bring up this visual too. It's not just happening with homes too. It's a cascade of mismanagement throughout the state. California auto insurance. This is from 2024. Price is set to pop another 50%. I mean, this is just going crazy. The amount, and of course, you don't need auto insurance to buy a home. But most people who buy a home probably are going to want a car too. And I mean, this is just prices are just going up everywhere. And, that's just a sign that the government is doing a lot of things wrong. Like when they're allowing your cars to get stolen and they blame the owners and not the crooks, right? I mean, this is what's happening in California. So, and then you go to your insurance company and, I guess there's going to be a lot of theft here. So they're going to have to charge more. So.
Well, I wonder how many people, how much are the people who are rising? Mine went down 20% this year because my cars are, I drive a 2016 Kia, right? If it breaks, they don't care. I'm protecting other drivers. That's really what my insurance is for, right? Yeah. Because my car's long paid off. It's only worth $6,000 or whatever it is. So as from an insurance company, my car's fine. If someone gets a small fender dender, you have to replace a bumper. It's maybe $1,000. It's not like these modern cars, a new 2023 car, where you can have no visible damage and have it be a $15,000 repair.
Yeah.
Simply because you've broken a bracket on a sensor. And now you've got to take half the freaking car apart to replace it. And it's $15,000.
Yeah. Yep. no, there's a variety of reasons why the insurance can go up, but certainly we see that there's some crazy policies, and a lot of places in California, I believe, are among the national leaders in car theft. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyways,
yeah, our closeness to Mexico is a big part of that car theft thing. They just go right over the border and off they go. Whereas, you steal a car in Washington State, you got a ways to go before you make it to Mexico. Apparently, Canada's not running stolen car rings. Like, I don't know why. I don't know why that is. How come Canada's not doing it, but Mexico
No,
is?
Canada has a big, huge stolen car problem.
Oh, they do? Okay. I stand corrected or sit.
Yeah, Canada has a big, huge. Well, they chop them up and ship them overseas through the ports.
Okay.
They sell the parts.
Oh, good for them.
Who does this? Who does this?
The gangs who steal the cars. It's a whole big thing. It's the same group of people who've been doing stealing and chopping cars since the 50s? This is a long-term criminal enterprise, Leon. This is nothing new.
No. Just trying to understand. You say they take the cars into Mexico or into Canada?
No, from Canada, they put them out the Canadian ports and ship them to God knows where.
Oh, okay.
There's a big, huge problem in Canadian ports. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those Washington cars get chopped up and sent out through Canada.
Oh, okay.
So I was trying to make an analogy, or example or something.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm a little asleep, so you never know where I'm going with it. I've been telling you guys.
Well, we are going a little off road on this, so let's see if we can get back on the road to the mismanagement around these fires. And this is, I guess, point in center is the mayor of Los Angeles is one of the biggest issues here. So, Jane, maybe you could bring up a visual here. So, here's an article that talks about Karen Bass. When this fire happened, she's the mayor, and she kind of had some indicators that this was, 100-mile-an-hour winds were sort of on the forecast, and they knew everything was kind of dry. And she decided to go off to, I guess, was it Ghana?
Ghana.
In Africa, so that she could be there for the swearing in of a new president there in Ghana. And it's kind of funny because while you would say, well, maybe she thought she was leaving the city in good hands, but I guess the deputy mayor was under investigation by the FBI at the same time and was on leave because he had apparently it connected with a bomb threat that was sent into the city hall. So I mean, this is kind of the drama that you have happening.
Wait a minute, public safety sent a bomb threat?
No, wait, guys, let's be careful. It was alleged. Okay?
Yeah, alleged. That's
allegedly.
Yeah. But my point is that it's not like she was leaving the city in great hands. I guess when she took off here, and she'd also made the point as well that she had told voters when she was elected as mayor that she would not be jet setting off to all these other countries for different reasons. She'd just be going to Sacramento and places in California. I guess she wouldn't be sitting there. She wouldn't be a part-time mayor, I guess. And anyways, but she was confronted on her way home because the fires broke out and everything was going to hell in Los Angeles, and people were losing their homes, and they were having issues with not enough water to fight the fire, hydrants running dry and everything else. And so it was a Sky News reporter, I believe, caught up with her in the UK. And here is the video of this. Is just astounding, to listen to the way she responded to this. So this is KOL2. James, maybe you could play that.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position? Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster? No apology for them. Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
So there you have it. I mean, that was an embarrassingly long showing, and so anyways, this went on for a while, I guess, and eventually they wound up sort of trying to scurry off without answering any questions from the reporter. So
Did you say that actually happened in the UK? I thought that was in Los Angeles when she returned.
No, that was part way back. So she had a flight that went through the UK, and that's where the guy caught up with her.
Got you.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, how did she spent all that time on the plane and couldn't come up with a simple? My heart breaks for the people. I'm looking forward to getting back. Just the 3-sentence. Hey, look, I don't know very much. I've been on the plane, but my heart breaks for everybody what they're going through. I'm hurrying back as fast as I can. Right? That's all you got to say.
And I could guarantee you, flying from Ghana to the UK and then flying from the UK to Los Angeles is a long flight. Okay, I've been to Africa. All right, I've been to Africa, and I could tell you it's a long damn flight. So you want to tell me in all of this time, in this long damn flight, she couldn't think about something that she would say when she hit the ground and somebody started asking questions? This is the height of arrogance and incompetence.
That's incompetence. That's right there. Somebody on her staff didn't write something for her. Well, we see how that doesn't work later anyway. But her staff is incompetent too. We're actually going to learn that later in the show. But God, no. Yeah, this is just awful. This is like Weekend at Bernie's worse because she's theoretically capable. Theoretically, anyway.
Yes.
You could. Biden, all right, his brain left the building, but her brain is still in her head.
For what it's worth.
Jason, you didn't break in for the for public access.
Well, that's okay. We've overshot that now.
I'll find an edit spot for that one. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, very well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this does go to the priorities, right? I mean, so not only do you have suspect leadership there, but what have they been focusing on? I mean, we talked about the quote at the beginning of the show from Benjamin Franklin, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Well, so what have these leaders been spending their time on? Well, apparently, one of the things they've been spending a lot of time on is the homelessness problem, that they have there. And Jane, maybe you could bring up the visual there. But they're spending over $1 billion on homelessness. And apparently they can't even figure out how to spend it correctly because there's some issues in 2024 about not being able to spend all the money, even though apparently they didn't send it to their fire people because apparently the fire budget was getting slashed that year. And that's exactly what that reporter was asking her about, is the fact that they were apparently cut $17 million from the fire budget there in the city. But you're spending billions in this never-ending project of Newsom's of homelessness in the state. I mean, we showed a video on this show a while back where Newsom, when he was mayor of San Francisco, had said he had a 10-year plan to end homelessness.
Yeah, that was 20 years ago. That was 20 years ago.
While he was mayor. Yeah, and that was 20 years ago. And where are we now? And of course, his plan then wasn't supposed to be $20 billion. But the state has dropped over $20 billion, and most people don't even know where the money has gone, right?
Exactly.
So we're talking about all that, and then to top it off, we have all of these woke issues that they're trying to get into things too. So I mean, one of the big things is that they have that new bill where they don't want to tell the parents about what's going on with their kids in the school. So that's a big deal. But then you have this issue with the hiring in the fire department where they're making it a priority for skin and genitals, on who you're hiring. And in fact, we have a short little video here of them about how proud they are of the fact that they're getting all of these women firefighters. And in this case, it sounds like some of them are admitting they're not going to be doing the job, right? James, maybe you could play KOL 3.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
So that was a female firefighter who has been hired, and I have no issues if somebody can do the job, who they are or what their characteristics are. But she's clearly indicating that she's not going to be carrying somebody out of the fire. now that's to me that this is insane. If you're proud that you're hiring people who can't do the job, so that I don't know. What do you guys think about this? I think this is nuts.
So, wait a minute, I just want to make sure I get this clear. So the invalid 80-year-old homeowner that's confined to his bed most of the time, he's got a wheelchair, he gets in and out. He needs home health care, blah blah blah. So his house catches on fire and she can't take him out, and it's his fault that he's there. Is that what I heard her say?
That's exactly what she said. Okay.
Just want to make sure. I just got to make sure that's clear.
That's exactly what she said. Okay.
But diversity is our strength. That's that.
Exactly. Diversity is our strength. Diversity is our strength. But they don't tell you what kind of diversity we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. So I hear voices in my head. I just want to make sure they're the right ones here and discern which ones they are.
Well, I am going to have
it is this sort of damn nonsense. This sort of damn nonsense that is destroying this country, and it's obviously destroying Los Angeles. It is one thing to find, let us say we want to hire anybody, whoever it is, okay? Whether it's minorities, whether it's women, whether it's whoever. If they can meet the standards, the established standards, no problem. But don't tell me this damn nonsense that, we're going to have all these nice, wonderful women in our department and everything else and stuff like that, and they can't lift up jack in an emergency. What good is that? What good is that?
I am going to say that different roles are needed for different things. You have kickers on a football field. The thing is, you don't ask them to block a defensive lineman. And there are places where you need a smaller statured person to be able to get into some place that a 6'2" burly guy couldn't get to. And so you do need someone who's, oddly enough, in that particular case, that wasn't a physical difference stature. It doesn't apply in that particular case, but she was big enough to pick me up. I don't.
Yeah.
It didn't look like she was going to have a problem picking me up. I don't really see what her problem was.
Yeah.
But the point is, James, you said it. What you said in the beginning is correct. If you hire somebody for a particular role, if they can meet the established standards, no problem. But if you hiring someone and part of their role will be they have to go in the house, they have to lift somebody up, maybe a 200-pound guy like me, they have to lift them up and that kind of stuff, and they cannot do that, and that is part of the requirement of the job, they should not be in the damn fire department or hire them for some other role that they could serve in that role.
Yeah, they're not the ones you send into a burning building, right? They're just not the ones you send into the burning. They have plenty of things they can do, but you don't send them into the burning building. Yeah. Unless they have a small space you need to get into, and then you can the ones we go.
So that would be a good comeback to her thing about, well, maybe you shouldn't have gotten himself in that position. Well, maybe you shouldn't have gotten yourself in that job if you can't do it.
Exactly.
Maybe you shouldn't have gotten in that position where you're supposed to pick somebody up and drag them out of a burning building. Yeah.
So who's the most wrong here? I don't know. Okay.
I'm saying the most wrong are the bunch of idiots who came up with this idea about diversity is our strength. Okay.
And let's be clear, I couldn't drag somebody else out of a burning building either. We're all screwed if you're waiting for me to drag someone out of a burning building. So
you're not a fireman either. Last I checked.
No.
Well, I think one thing I definitely don't want to leave out of the conversation, because we've had a lot of fun poking at the management of the city of Los Angeles, but let's talk a little bit about the management of the state of California, and that has been Governor Newsom. And by the way, too, in case you're not familiar with California, it is a one-party state. So for the most part, I mean, there are Republicans here, but all of the important positions have been held for a decade or two by Democrats. So this is like there's no, it's that they have almost a super majority, I think, on a lot of these things. So yeah.
I think we haven't had a Republican in a statewide office since 2006 or something like that. I think that's the number, something like that.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
like insurance commissioner or something silly like that, wasn't it? Something
yeah.
I don't remember what it was. It's been a while though.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things I wanted to point out was we have a couple little videos of Gavin Newsom here. So one is him, he's been sort of beating the drum about, misinformation is one of the big issues he wants dealt with, I guess. And yet we see just like almost like an arsonist spreading a fire, he's spreading misinformation like crazy himself. And let's go to video KOL 4, because this is Gavin Newsom being interviewed on Meet the Press about some of the details about the fire.
President-elect Trump has blamed you for this crisis. He called you incompetent. What's your response?
Well, I called for him to come out, take a look for himself. We want to do it in the spirit of an open hand, not a closed fist. He's the president-elect. I respect the office. I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt in reservoirs. The reservoirs are completely full. The state reservoirs here in Southern California, that mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us. Responding to Donald Trump's insults, we would spend another month. I'm very familiar with them. Every elected official that he disagrees with, very familiar with them.
We do know, though, from reporting here locally that one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation, to understand what was happening with that local reservoir. That was not a state system reservoir, which the president-elect was referring to.
So there you have it. He's literally being caught flat-footed right there on the, in the interview by the media person asking him, hey, look, we actually heard some of these reservoirs are not full. In fact, I believe there was, I thought I had a clip of one of the reservoirs. I guess I don't have that article handy, but yes, there was a particular reservoir that was empty, and it was because the apparently there was a cover that was damaged, I guess. And so they, now this is something that should probably just take, you imagine a cover to a reservoir is damaged. Okay, so they get that repaired in a few weeks. No, it's been down for over a year. So, this is California.
That's right.
That's right. So they had an empty reservoir, the one that they're talking about in that video. But yeah, so I mean, these are some of the issues. Now here he's being confronted by just a constituent here, and it's kind of funny what happens in this. So Jane, maybe you can play KOL 5.
I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
California Governor Gavin Newsom is being criticised by some for water mismanagement as hydrants ran dry while fires multiplied.
So I have to get self-service.
So let's get it. Let's get it. I want to be here when you call the president.
I appreciate it. I'm doing that right now. And it's to immediately get reimbursements, individual assistance, and to help you. I'm devastated for you. I'm so sorry, especially for your daughter. I have 4 kids.
So there he was asking him, hey, what are you going to do? And he said, I'm on the phone with the president right now. And well, I'm not actually on the phone with him, but I'm trying to get on the phone. I don't know. So anyways, what do you guys think about Mr. Slimer here?
Well, you have to give Gavin some credit. He's so slick. Even when he got caught in his little lies and little deceptions and disinformation, he always find a way to weasel out of them. He's very slick and he's very good. I have to give him that. He might be worth anything else. He's full of all these episodes of mismanagement and all his woke garbage. But boy, he's nice and slick. Boy, I have to give him that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else to say about Newsom that we haven't been said 1,000 times already. He's an abject disaster in every objective measure. I mean, how anybody can't see it? Everybody sees it. They're just ignoring it for whatever reasons, And this whole thing, I have said for years that the far left cares more about policy than people, and we are just seeing that on display yet again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Policy that people, okay.
Well, it is funny, too, because this is one of the things that Trump has brought up a lot when he criticizes Gavin Newsom, and Republicans as well have mentioned this. But and they rightly refer to the fact that we've had a forest mismanagement problem where a lot of fuels are allowed to build up. And because of various environmental policies that we have in the state, we don't wind up dealing with this stuff. And Jane, maybe you could bring up this one visual. This is an article from 2021, Capital Public Radio, and it said Newsom misled the public about wildfire prevention efforts ahead of worst forest fire season on record. Now, that whatever happened in 2021, I gotta say, I don't think it's as bad as this last one. I mean, things just keep getting worse. And they talk about how, he overstated what they were doing by 690%. Okay. And now Gavin Newsom and the Democrats are the ones that are constantly talking about, there's misinformation, disinformation. Anybody who says something different than what we say. He literally called on the carpet here, for overstating what they're doing with respect to forest management. And, so it's absolutely nuts, what's going on some of this stuff. So I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on that.
We always know that the Democrats specifically love to project, right? They love to project their own guilt onto everybody else. We're just seeing that again.
Oh, yes. Well, it's always a power play, right? It's a power play. They want to so control our lives. They think, they're going to take us to this utopia. But while they're taking us to this utopia, they're going to control us, control our thoughts, control our conduct, control our actions. It's always a power play. And now that the quote unquote the chickens have come up to roost, now they have to find somebody else to blame. They can't blame themselves. They're not going to come out and say, "Oh God, Lord, I'm sorry, I messed up. Please forgive me." They ain't going to say that. They're going to have to find somebody else to blame. Look at Gavin Newsom spending his time blaming Trump. Trump is not even president yet. He's not even president yet, but he's blaming Trump for some of the things that are going on here in California. When it was his administration, his mismanagement, all the bureaucracy that we have here in California, and they are doing nothing but creating disasters. That's what they're doing. And sooner or later, you see this wildfire we have right now? We have plenty more wildfires to face in this state before some of these people will wake up. If you get my meaning.
Yeah. Well, it's funny as far as maybe you could bring this visual up here, James, but as far as the misinformation goes, I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about here. So it's not just the Democrat politicians, but it's also their voices in the media as well. A lot of times the mainstream media is almost like an arm of the Democrat Party. But, here's the AP, and it looks like the topic is climate. So that should set some alarm bells off right away anyways when you're reading the article. But it says, for LA water issues, misinformation spreads nearly as fast as wildfires. And, it's like, oh my God, this is literally what we've been hearing through COVID, and even before, I guess, but especially after that, is it misinformation? Everything's about misinformation and the government trying to control these things. And it's funny too, because apparently Newsom, I guess was trying to tell people, let's see, it says Newsom defends fire response with fact check site linking to Democratic Party fundraising platform. So apparently, he was trying to get people to go there, I guess, for fact checking, and I guess there was all kinds of stuff there connected to this thing called Act Blue, which was a way to fund the Democrat Party, I guess, looking for donations. Yes. So, I mean, this is what they point to when they're talking about fact checking. But, we've just had a revelation that happened right about the time that these forest fires kicked in. Mark Zuckerberg came out just a few weeks ago, and he said that, hey, look, all this stuff that we've been doing with fact checkers, it's all BS. These people are highly political. And fact, so they've decided they're getting rid of their fact checkers. In fact, we do have a video clip to show of that as well, because this is so important. But it's the reason I'm bringing this up is because we're literally seeing them try to hit us with this misinformation thing so they can cloak the bad job that we're catching them in with respect to these LA fires. And, it's just they cry misinformation constantly, and then they send you to their fact checkers. Well, here's the video, KOL6, James. Maybe you could play that of Zuckerberg talking about, in his own words, what he thinks about the fact checkers.
So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. More specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote nonstop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth. But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system. Second, we're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse.
So he went on with a whole bunch of other things too, but those were kind of the biggies. The idea that they've been filtering people's content, and the idea that they had fact checkers going in there to tell us all that, hey, this isn't real, when they're really just an arm of the Democrat Party that's in there saying that anything that disagrees with the Democrat Party is not a fact. So anyways, you guys, to me, this is one of the biggest moves, I guess, shifts that we've seen, I guess, in free speech, and I guess, hopefully a vibrant, open dialogue out there, between people is, to see Facebook shifting towards where I guess X Twitter is, and start seeing that monopoly on speech being broken, I guess, in social media. What do you guys think about all this?
No, I think
I just want to say just real quick, a year ago, they weren't even acknowledging that this was true.
Yeah.
That they were manipulating the algorithms, manipulating content, they weren't even admitted it was true. And now all of a sudden we're going to go back to normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say something just like that, but I really believe Facebook is going to make these changes and that kind of stuff. But I do not believe, you see Zuckerberg, I don't believe none of the crap that's coming out of his mouth. Okay? Now they will change it and they're going to go to the community notes system. I think that's a very superior system to what they were doing previously, because Elon Musk is doing this on X. But Zuckerberg and company is starting to see that there's a rebellion going on in the United States against these damn social media companies who are trying to limit our speech. And they're doing it to help the Democrats. But they're starting to read, thank God, they're starting to read the writing on the wall, and they're starting to make changes, which is a good thing. But what I don't like about this Zuckerberg conversion is all these niceties about, we tried this and we tried that, and we have to go back to our roots and blah, 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 and all the other crap. Okay? They're just reading the writing on the wall, that's all.
Okay, let me translate Zuckerberg for you. We're losing a bunch of people off Facebook, and so we got to go back to we got to do what X and other platforms that allow free speech do, and so that's why I'm going to do it. There. That's the translation.
I'll take that.
True,
I'll take that.
You know why people like me left is because the ads were more relevant on Facebook than my feed.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. There's a million other reasons. Correct. Yeah, I agree. But the truth really is that people are leaving Facebook in droves.
Yeah.
Which, I'm on it. I'm on it for one reason only, to stay in touch with my family and my friends. That's it. As I don't argue politics or anything. I might argue shotguns, but I don't argue politics.
Well, now you can talk about shotguns again, Tim. So there you go.
Yeah, I can. It's free and open. So far as I know. Maybe things are throttled. But hey, who cares?
Well, you never know when politics is going to intrude on your shotgun conversations.
Yeah, exactly.
The Second Amendment stuff, but
it's the gospel. It's the gospel of the gauge.
Yes.
I got to preach it.
Yeah. But this is something that's I guess super important. And we saw this happening during COVID, where the government was literally Mark Zuckerberg was on Joe Rogan's show about, I think, maybe a year ago or so, and he was telling Joe Rogan at the time that the government literally came them and told them essentially to look out for that Hunter Biden laptop story. They said, look out for Russian disinformation. It's going to be coming.
Yes.
and they were literally trying to condition them to essentially screen out a story that they already had the evidence of the laptop, and they knew it was going to hit the media at some point.
Yeah.
So they were literally essentially taking out an election, with misinformation. Right? So
actually, that laptop story, just one little point. The government, the FBI in particular, had that laptop 1 year before the 2020 elections.
Yeah. So they already knew what it was, and it was actually government misinformation that steered that election wrong. But anyways, there was one little point too I wanted to bring up as well on the misinformation point. Maybe you could bring this visual up here too, James. But when there was the argument between Trump and Newsom about water policy, here's an article for Cal Matters, and they talk about a reservoir where they were trying to save water here near in the Sacramento River, and they say what's taking so long, and 40 years, and this is a 2023 story, right? So I mean, this comes down to the issues that whether it's Trump or Republicans or maybe other liberty-minded people, and they say California has just got some bizarre management issues going on, and when you see a fire like this break out, there may be a whole cascade of mismanagement reasons of why things aren't materializing. Speaking of mismanagement, well, one other topic I wanted to cover in this was price gouging, because we've heard the politicians come out like they always do whenever there's a disaster, and they raise the specter that, hey, look out for those evil price gougers. They're your worst enemies in a crisis. And of course, that's really like, for anybody in the know, that's the sort of economic illiteracy on stilts by letting prices respond to the market. Before we get into it, though, there is a video that kind of shows what the message is in the news media and what the local district attorney is going to do about it out there. So, James, maybe you could play video KOL 7.
The Palisades fire turned neighborhoods to ash, destroying homes like the Gellers. The couple has been searching for a rental since. They say despite a law that's supposed to protect Californians, rents are surging. During a state of emergency, prices can't spike more than 10%. We did a quick search of active listings and found at least 4 that appear to violate the law. Realtors say they've seen it too.
We are seeing price increases up to 81%. The demand for furnished rentals is obviously something we've never seen before.
Before the fires, there was a lack of inventory. Now, for certain homes, I'm told, more than 100 people will put in a bid, driving up the price. To find out what's being done to protect you, we went to Los Angeles District Attorney Nathan Hochman.
Here's what I'm here to tell you, and make sure that they understand this, and the message is absolutely clear. They will be arrested, they will be prosecuted, and they will be punished to the full extent of the law.
So, again, price gouging. Now, just to kind of let people understand, when there's a disaster, there's probably going to be scarcity on a lot of things. In this case, there's scarcity in homes. So, just basic supply and demand. When you have stuff and there's more people looking for that stuff than there are people with it, the price is going to go up. You see this with concert tickets. You see it with everything, I mean, essentially if the same token, if nobody wants to go to a concert, that price is going to drop on the tickets as well, probably. But this is something we see constantly, and it's just and you see this from Republican politicians too. It's not just Democrat politicians. So it was something we wanted to bring up here, and we even have a price gouging website. Jane, maybe you could go there. This is California has laws like they mentioned in there, and if they see the prices go up more than about 10%, these are all the different areas and what the codes are, and they say it's about 10% greater than whatever the norm is. Somehow that's price gouging. Well, think if you're the store owner or something else, and suddenly you're not going to be doing as much business, you're not going to have supply coming in. What are you supposed to sell in the days when you're sold out of things? You're still going to have to pay taxes. The government's not going to stop charging you taxes and other fees. So, the issue is that, you've got to try and moderate to whatever the situation is. What do you guys think about the price gouging issue?
Well, it's not just that, Jason. You got to pay somebody to drive your product into a disaster zone. That's going to cost more money than it did a week ago. Just because there's less trucks available, just because people don't want to do it. Who wants to drive into a freaking disaster zone to deliver off chocolate candy bars? No one wants to do that. But if you want to sell them, someone has to.
Yes.
And so
Yeah. In your example, James, the normal supply routes and the supply support, the structure of it all is no longer in existence. So somebody has to create a new supply system, and that's what you're referring to for products that are in short supply, like water and that kind of thing, right?
yeah, and it will be wildly inefficient at beginning, right? So it will be wildly expensive, just because of the nature of how logistics work.
Yeah, I think what we're talking about is a little bit different thing. How would you say the increase in rent? So you own a property and you've got it up for rent. Nobody's in it. Let's say that's just rare in California. I mean, you got, four walls and a roof. You've got somebody in it. But let's just say they've got an available home to rent, and instead of renting it out for $2,000 a month, you want to rent it out for $4,000 a month. You're just going to double the price and say, "Hey, you want it for $4,000? You came out of Pacific Palisades. Sorry, but I've got plenty of people that would, pay that and more." So, how does that type of
because here's
increase
the thing.
in price?
If you've got $2,000 in rent, you're going to have 400 people come in and apply for that position. You don't want to go for 400 applicants.
Yes.
So you raise it to 4,000. Now you only have to deal with 5.
Yeah.
Basic supply and demand. I don't see what the problem is. Basic supply and demand.
And so now
people demanding their property. There's a whole 10, 20, 30, 40 people out there want to get someplace, and you have a space available. What's wrong with charge? Even if you have to double it or triple it, what's wrong with that? Basic supply and demand.
Only one person's getting that house, and it's likely going to be the person who can afford it most anyway.
Yeah.
So you might as well suck as much money from him as you can.
Yeah.
Plus, he's not going to be there and as very long. As soon as he gets his house rebuilt, whatever that.
He's moving, right?
Yeah.
That's right, and that's the way it go. Maybe he signed something for 3 months, 4 months, whatever. He paid $4,000, $5,000, and then he's gone and stuff.
Yeah. Here's the thing too, though, is that you're also getting you've lost supply is what's happening. That's why the problem, your supply isn't meeting demand. And so suppose I've heard of some of these cases where, let's say you're a homeowner and you could just list your property on Airbnb or something else like that, or one of these types of rental systems, and then you go someplace else because maybe you don't need to be in Los Angeles. And so, does it make any sense for you to do that if it's just the normal price, right? You're not going to leave, but now suddenly you have the incentive to increase the supply there in Los Angeles by moving out. So
that's a good point.
Very good point.
At $4,000, I can now move to Arizona and pay my rent with that, pay my new mortgage or rent with that cost, while still covering the costs. And now you've got another house available in LA.
Basically,
make a profit.
Yeah, these sanctimonious politicians never consider the hardship they place upon people. I am serious. They come out and they talk about, we're gonna fix those price gouges, we're gonna prosecute them, blah blah blah, and all this bunch of crap. Let me tell you a real life story. I'll make it quick. Okay, I promise you, I'll make it quick. I lived through a hurricane, a very bad hurricane in 1983 in Houston, Texas. 1983. My son was just the older of my 2 children was just about 5 years old. The hurricane was so bad we had to hide in our bathtub for about 5 hours or some kind of stuff and things like that. Anyway, what was in very short supply? Ice. We couldn't find ice. So before the hurricane came, I went on, I was looking for ice. I was able to find a little bit and stuff like that. Them days, a bag of ice was $1. They were talking $5, $6, $7, maybe even $10 for bags of ice at that time and that kind of stuff. Some of these politicians jump up and start to yell and scream about these price gougers and how they're going to prosecute them. They're going to save us consumers from these evil people, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Anyway, we did what we had to do. We had a little bit of ice. We saved what we could have saved. But, of course, the whole tragedy lasted days. Of course, what happened? Some of our property, some of our things that we would normally refrigerate, they all spoiled. I think back then I must have thrown out about $150 of worth of products, of things that could have been frozen and saved. I had to throw out about $150 worth of it. I was not unique in any way, shape, or form. All over Houston, I am sure that people doing the same thing. Maybe some people was $75 worth, some people was more than me, maybe 200, 300, whatever it was. But a lot of stuff end up in the garbage. You know why it end up in the garbage? Because of these damn sanctimonious politicians who wouldn't want to allow us to spend maybe $30, $40 to save our stuff, but instead it ended up costing us $150 on the backside. And this is the kind of damn nonsense that these politicians just do and put us in these positions, and then they go back to their normal, when everything is settled down, they go back and they pat themselves on the back. Oh my God, we saved all these people from the price gougers. No, they didn't save us some crap.
Yeah. Well, and the crazy
more
thing
about
is
policy than people, Leon.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, and the crazy thing is, a lot of times the reason the price has gone up is because of something the government's done that screwed things up. And so
Exactly.
when they try to say, we're not going to let those greedy people charge you more.
Yes.
I mean, remember, this is what happened during the lockdowns, right? Suddenly, oh my God, price gougers. You literally just shut down the economy. And now you changed the amount of supply and demand that is there everywhere. And then you're shocked that prices are going to change on things.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is, and you know, this is something too that is not new to us here in California. Jen, maybe you could just bring up this visual real quick, but we hear this all the time too. We have different gas laws in this state than the rest of the country, where we ask for a different blend of gasoline, and that obviously has a difference because now suddenly you have to make a special gasoline for California, so it costs more than the rest of the nation. But when it costs more, suddenly and plus you've created a shorter supply as well, because if something disturbs that market, that you can't just take it from anywhere else now too. So you've got a more fragile market. So when the price does change because a refinery goes down or something else, everybody starts screaming price gouging. Right? But this is just in so many ways, you know, our governor signed this law about price gouging with gasoline. And by the way, we've got some refineries now that are headed out of the state as well.
Yes.
Some gasoline companies. So it's just one thing after another with price controls. They're sending the insurance companies out, then the refiners are leaving. I mean, it's just an absolute nightmare with these people running things and just keep looking for the prices to keep going up on everything, despite all of their edicts on keeping the prices down.
So I want to know why, when the state passes regulations that require the gas prices to go up 47 cents, which is the vast majority of it goes to the government, why isn't that price gouging?
Exactly.
It is. But it's only the state can legally, quote unquote, legally break the law or legally violate our rights. That's what's going on there. It is. You're absolutely right.
It's gouging. It's not gouging because they think it's the proper amount. They think it's their fair share.
Their fair share, exactly. Their fair share.
It's not a gouge.
The government takes our hard-earned income, our labor, our honest labor. They take it and spend it the way they damn well please, and then they tell, "Oh, that's just a fair share. You're just paying a fair share." That's my labor you're talking about, bro. If you didn't get that right.
And then they pat themselves on the back because their policies help people.
Yes, right. You always pat yourself.
Take $10 out of my pocket, give me back $3, and say, "Hey, look how good I am. I'm awesome." Screw you guys. Can I just give you $5 and we walk away from this? I'm better off.
God.
Well, I tell you, I think. We've seen all of the absurdity, but this takes us back full circle for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol to the person who's running things or apparently not running things very well in Los Angeles, and that's Mayor Karen Bass. And here she had a press conference, and this just is the cherry on top of, I guess, the mismanagement and the competence of the people who are running these things. So, James, maybe you could play a KNP1 for us.
But make no mistake, Los Angeles will rebuild stronger than ever. Right now, if you need help, emergency information, resources, and shelter is available. All of this can be found at URL. Los Angeles, together is how we will get through this.
So she told everybody you can get help at URL.
I can't believe I'm going to do this. I'm going to throw her a little bone, Leon. It's a very little bone, Leon, okay? It's a very, very little bone. I understand how this happens. Right? You're doing a cold read. You haven't read it before, and so you're reading as you're speaking. You're kind of it's the same process. And so you don't know that says URL until after you've already said it. Now, what you do when this happens is you go, hey, someone, tell me what this URL is. You notice that that's a mistake, and you correct it right then immediately. You deal with it right then immediately. But I understand how it happens, but how she's not aware enough to not correct it and deal with it right then on the spot, I have no excuse for that one.
I mean, if you were watching
I'm trying
the
to
thing,
be as nice and pleasant as I can, but oh man.
Well, if you were somebody who literally needed help, you didn't get help that day because you don't know what the website is you were supposed to go to.
Yes. But James, though, even though I can give you that she was just reading and she read it out and that kind of stuff, but she's such a dumbass that even after she said URL, she couldn't even turn around and say, oh, what's the website? Or say something to show that she understood that she was really messing up here badly, okay? That she's messing up so badly that here we are tonight talking about it and joking about it. This shows incompetence, and this shows how much of a dumbass she is.
Not just incompetence, not just her incompetence, her whole team. Yeah. Someone wrote that.
Fair enough.
Her team failed her, right? Now then she went on and made another fail, right? She doubled on the fail, but her team failed her because she didn't have time to read it, and it happens. And even the most seasoned professional will do that on occasion, right? They'll just read what's put in front of them because it's just they're doing what they're doing. But they correct it, they fix it. He goes, "Oh wow, did I just say that?" And then they move on, right? That's what it says on the teleprompter, really. They do something to correct it and to let people know what happened. And she just kind of keeps going on like it was the most normal thing in the world. Now, that there's no excuse for. I feel, as a person who does TV and gets put in that position, I feel for the mistake. I feel for the interest, that can happen. I get it. But the afterwards, no. Her team failed her, and she failed her team.
She didn't recognize the abnormality in what she was saying after it was said, and that to me is a real problem. Even though I'll give you everything that you have said, okay, understand how it happened.
I almost feel for her, Leon, but then she went and just completely butchered the recovery, and it's like, oh man. Trying to be nice is hard for these people. It's just hard to be nice.
Yeah, true. That's true. That's true. Yeah. I'm
the whole show without saying this. Here in California, we are reaping what we've sowed.
Yes. Yep. That's an important point, James. That's an important point. We sit around here on this, how long here? We've been over an hour here on this show. And we constantly blaming the politicians, which is what we have done. I have been most vocal about that. The fact of the matter is, the people that we should be voting, that we should be really criticizing here, is the damn voters who put these people there. Because the voters of this state are over and over again putting these people to lead us. So really and truly, it's really on our shoulders that why this incompetence have been going on for all of these years and continue to this day. Okay.
Well, and remember, Leon, there was a recall of Gavin Newsom, and we had the chance to get Larry Elder as the governor who was running against him. And Larry Elder was then painted by the Los Angeles Times as the black face of white supremacy. Voters believed that, and they voted to keep Newsom in because they couldn't have the black face of white supremacy be the governor.
Of course not. Yeah.
Yeah, you can expect this to continue forever. In my okay, I'm a little cynical, I admit, but I expect this continually to continue, and never stop. This whole election of the far left into California forevermore, and they will never learn their lesson. In a million years, the voters, the typical.
New York hasn't, so why would ours?
Yeah.
Well,
It's about it because James is correct. It's about policies. It's not about what they do or don't do. It's not how harmful the policies are to the people. It's like they favor the policy and damned the results. Never mind the results. It's like I trust the science, but I do not believe in the scientific method. In other words, let's posit a theorem and then let's see how it works out. Now, the seeing how it works out part, they don't care about that. They just want to posit a theorem and vote for it. They're anti-science, essentially.
Yeah, and if it hasn't, they just haven't tried hard enough, or they just haven't spent enough money, or it's
not been the right
Republicans or whatever. It's always the excuse. Yeah,
always an excuse.
Okay. I'm going to take a little different view on this, okay? I am a little more optimistic, okay? I truly believe, I might be proven wrong, but I truly believe those fires, as massive as they are, as tragic as they are, as devastating as they are, I think represents a turning point in the state of California. This is where the massive incompetence, the massive mismanagement of our state have been laid bare for the entire world to see. And if we as voters in this state learn nothing from this, then we are just as bad and as dumbassed as the people we put to lead us. But I do not believe that about our voters. And so I believe that this is a turning point. I really do.
Okay, you're wrong. You can be wrong. But that's okay. It's not going to make a teensy-weensy bit of difference. Not even one vote or two. Maybe
I think there'll be a couple. A couple of those people have to try some permits for their houses, and they're going to start voting differently. But it won't be
and a
not
few
enough
of them,
to make a difference.
Well, a few of them may actually leave, but then they'll just take their bad ideology somewhere else.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Talking about that, there was an article in the Wall Street Journal, must have been some years ago. I think it was about 5-6 years ago, about people who were moving to Utah, Californians moving to Utah. And some of the native people of Utah were complaining that they were bringing their bad ideas with them. So Jason, you might be talking some kind of reality here that is kind of frightening when you think about it.
California pollution coming in a U-Haul.
Remember, a California centrist is a leftist for Utah.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah. Well, I think we've kind of handled managed the mismanagement that's going on in the state tonight, at least with respect to the fires. But next week I think we have I can't remember his last name, but we have a person, Enoch from Defending Utah, so that's who we'll be talking to next week, and certainly he has some ideas on grassroots organizations. So we'll like to hear some of that. And it's funny, we're just talking about Utah, so that's a nice segue. But if you're watching, think about what you could do in your community to change things around. Because usually every week we're interviewing somebody who's doing something, whether they're starting their own country, trying to swing a state, whatever it is. Maybe there's something you could do in your community. So be thinking about that before the next show. And until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Oh, yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.